Hello and welcome to Season 2 of the Coming Down to Earth with Spirit podcast with me, David Hale. Like with Season 1, we will continue talking about all things spiritual in a real and down-to-earth way. So I hope you can join me on my podcast journey so you can learn from my own spiritual journey and experiences with spirit in order to help you on your own spiritual journey and development. So join me now as we get into this episode. Hello everybody, I hope you're all well and thank you very much for tuning in to my podcast again, and welcome to this listener questions episode. And we have a question from Rachel, and this question is you're gonna get a very real and honest answer here. It's quite a personal question, but I feel it's also an important question because I feel like the answer that I'm going to give is going to help those people who are currently going through what we're going to talk about in this episode. And even long-standing mediums will have gone through what we're going to talk about as well. So hopefully it'll be understandable to people and they can resonate with what I'm saying. And it's not that I haven't been honest in my other episodes, because you guys know, if you know me and you watch how I work, you know that I am very honest. It's just that this particular question is quite a personal question, and therefore you are going to get kind of a very personal and honest answer from it. And so the question is, have you ever thought, I don't want to do this anymore? And what Rach was meaning with this question is, have I ever thought that I don't want to do this mediumship work anymore? Let's just be clear about what we're talking about here. And the very honest answer is yes, absolutely, on multiple occasions. But I feel like it's not a case of I don't want to do it anymore, but it's more of a case of I can't do this anymore for various reasons, which I will talk about in this podcast. But I do feel like I'm not the only medium who has gone through those thoughts of I can't do this work anymore, I don't want to do this work anymore. I think that we all go through it, having talked to other mediums that I know about their own journeys. But let's start with my own journey, and we'll go back to the very beginning of my development. You know, when I first started developing back in the very early days, where I was, doing my own research, I was looking at different things that I could learn, all before I joined a development circle in a spiritualist church. I was doing my own little research. I was watching a lot of mediums on Facebook, doing their live streams and all that kind of business. And whilst doing that, I was seeing some of the comments that trolls, skeptics, cynics, just horrible people. I saw the comments that they were leaving, and some of them were just vile and nothing really to do with what the medium was doing, but there were personal insults that are being thrown at them. So at that point, before I even started really getting into the development, I did sit and question myself, and I did say to myself, do I really want to do this? Do I really want to invite that kind of negativity in? Do I need to do something which people are going to throw insults at me? And it's aside from how charlatan, fraudster, all the common things we get called by skeptics, but there are the personal stuff that I've been seeing that other mediums get as well. And I really did question for a moment that, do I really want to even start developing as a medium when you have that kind of hatred and vitriol out there as well? And so I really did have to think about that and think, do I need that? Because, as a kid myself, I was bullied as a kid for a long time. And, I had names thrown at me. I was called this, that. I was called all various amounts of names, which I don't need to go through here. But they really affected me as a child. But I thought, in the end, no, do you know what? I'm being pushed by spirit to start developing as a medium, and I'm paying attention to what I'm being told, where I'm being guided, and I'm obviously being told to do this for a reason. And then I thought, do you know what? The trolls, skeptics, cynics, they're always going to exist. So whether I start developing now or later, they're still going to be there, whatever. So I thought, no, do you know what? I'm not going to let people like that stop me from doing something which I've been interested in for a long time, even as a teenager. And it's something that I feel I can do, and I can do well as well. So I thought, I'm just going to get on with it. So that was that. But then as I went through my journey, my development as a medium, there have been multiple times where I have sat and thought to myself, I can't do this. I can't do it. And again, multiple reasons, which I'll talk about in a minute. But there were some serious times where I thought, I'm going to stop doing this. I'm going to get a full-time job somewhere else, and I'm going to do that instead of doing this. And the reasons for that, and I think this is where other people, like new mediums that are listening to this, are going to be able to resonate with this. The reason we go through that is because of our confidence, and lack of it is basically what I mean. Because the work we do as mediums, it's not, I think there's a perception out there that what we do is easy, we make it up, we say we'll know whatever we want. And we know, the authentic mediums that are listening to this, no, that's not how it works. That's not the case. This can actually be a really difficult ability to get your head around, right? And I think that's what it is. I think because we don't necessarily fully understand how it works, we question it and we question ourselves. Especially at the beginning of your development. I mean, if you've been doing this 10, 15, 20 years, you kind of get over that and you go, yeah, whatever, I'm just doing what I'm doing, right? But I think at the beginning of your development, in your early years, you're trying to figure things out and you're almost like really desperate to get things right all the time. And it is those occasions where you don't get things right that you then kind of turn on yourself and say to yourself, I'm not good enough. I've got that thing wrong. Why did I get that thing wrong? I can't get that wrong because I'm going to look stupid, and I can't sit in front of someone and nobody from spirit comes through. I can't sit in front of someone giving them evidence and they keep saying no to me. And all those things, they knock your confidence. But all those things are normal because, when you first start developing as a medium, you're not meant to get everything right, because you're meant to get things wrong, because it helps you to figure out, okay, how do I get it right next time? How is spirit communicating that particular thing to me? What does that symbol mean? Etc., etc. So it's a learning process. But I feel like, and it's not for some people, yes, it is an ego thing. And there are some very egoic mediums out there, but I'm talking about ego from the sense of, no, we just want to help people and we don't want to be wrong. And when we are wrong, we then tell ourselves we're not good enough. I can't do this anymore because I'm not getting these things right. And we don't give ourselves enough time really to really develop, because mediumship development is not 2 years. Mediumship development can take a number of years. I'm in my 7th year and I'm still learning. I'm still absolutely learning new things. My mediumship is still changing, even 7 years on. I've noticed recently I've started to receive information in different ways. My clairaudience is really opening up. But I've been there where, even up to a year ago, I was like, well, that reading I didn't feel was so great, and therefore I'm not great. Therefore, I can't do it because I don't feel I can do it to the best of my ability. And, my other half does remind me when I have those moments of, I can't do this, I'm not good enough. He'll say to me, remind me, how many readings have you done? And then he'll say, well, how many of those readings have you completely buggered up? Which is a very, 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 very small amount. And that's not being big-headed here, but it's true. I've very rarely had a reading where it went completely wrong. In fact, I don't think that's ever happened at all. And so sometimes he has to remind me of that, which then kind of gets me back on track again to go, and you know what, you're right. But I think it's natural that we do question ourselves. But I think that can be a good thing as well, because it keeps ourselves in check. It keeps us grounded. It reminds us of why we do the work that we do. And again, it's an ever learning thing. If everything was perfect, then, we wouldn't learn anything. Right? So sometimes it's okay to be wrong, but it's those occasions that we are wrong that feel that it almost in our heads, it's like a step backwards. But with mediumship development, there's no step backwards. We always move forwards. But sometimes, again, when we get those readings, which we feel are not so great, then that really affects our enjoyment of mediumship, because we want to get things right. And I think we have to remember that, when we do readings, and I'm talking to myself here. I'm giving myself my own advice here as I'm saying this. But when we are doing readings, it's not up to us to judge how they went. It's up to the sitter. And I think mediums we are our own worst enemies, right? We are our own biggest critics. No one else can criticize us like we criticize ourselves. And there have been times where, I've done a reading and I've come out of it thinking, oh God, I don't feel that connection was so strong, or the evidence could have been better, or whatever. And then the client messages me afterwards and says, thank you so much for that reading. It was fantastic. You don't realize it at the time, but I think we're so busy judging ourselves that, we don't take time to consider always how the client has felt about that reading. So when that validation does come through, it does give you a little bit of a boost. It's a bit of a nice surprise. But again, I can completely understand those people who do that, who do think, oh, that wasn't good enough, I could have done better there. But again, it's just to remember that it's not up to us to judge it. But all those moments of self-doubt, it really takes the joy out of the mediumship. And that's when we start thinking to ourselves, I can't do this anymore. And I've been through that a couple of times. And it's a little bit like, if you have a job which you're no longer enjoying and you don't find any joy in it, you don't do it anymore. You change jobs, you leave, you do something else. It's very similar. It's very similar to that. But with this ability, it is about finding that joy in the mediumship again. And I think there's no magic pill for that. I think we have to go through those moments. We have to persevere with it, and we have to experience those different things and feelings and emotions in order for us to grow from it and for us to be able to move forward with it. Because again, they're all learning experiences. And I think another reason why, we take the joy out of it is because we're trying to be so perfect at it. And I was very much like this, especially at the very beginnings of my mediumship, that I wanted to be perfect. I wanted to make sure that everything I said was 100% spot on, that the client could take every single thing that I said, the description, the characteristics, the personality of the spirit person, the evidence, the message. And that's just only because by nature, I'm a perfectionist, right? If I do something, I want to do it to 100% to the best of my ability. And, what I learned, sometimes I still learn it. It's that there is no perfection in mediumship, because mediumship, every time you do a reading, it's an experiment, because we never know who's going to come through, if anyone at all, what they're going to say, what the evidence is going to be. So we're very much, when we're sat in front of a client or on a platform or something, we don't know what's going to happen until we get there and start doing the reading. So there is no perfection in mediumship, because we also have to remember that, the client is not always going to be able to take 100% of what you say. And that's okay, because as a human, when we're having those kind of things fired at us, like, the spirit person's personality, the characteristics, dates, names, evidence, memories, in that moment, there's so much coming at us that as a human, we're not naturally going to remember every single thing that's happened in our life. We're not going to remember every single name that's of a person in the family or our friendship circle. So some things are naturally not going to be able to be taken by the client at that particular minute. But that's a normal thing. That's a human thing. And so we can't allow ourselves to be put off by the no's, because they're naturally going to happen. But at the beginning of your development, you don't like no's, because you think if someone says no to you, to us, in our mind, is a negative thing. A no is always seen as a negative word, isn't it? But actually, the no's can sometimes be the most important, because those no's make people research, and then they will find that what you've said is absolutely true. They then come back to you saying, oh, by the way, what you said to me, I've just found out that is correct. So Now, all of these things are learning things, but once again, I can understand how they would affect confidence, which then affects how we feel about mediumship, which then takes the joy out of it, and then we don't want to do it anymore. And isn't it funny that as it's a human thing, right, that we might have a load of positives in our life and a few negatives, but we also always focus on the negatives, don't we? We always like, what if that happens? What if that doesn't happen? Instead of going, when this happens, I'm going to make this happen. We always go to the negative. And there's been many occasions where I've done one reading, and that one reading out of, 20 I've done that particular month or whatever, the one reading that I thought wasn't so good, that's the one I focused on. And I've said to my other half, that wasn't really good. Maybe I'm not a medium. Maybe I can't do it. Maybe I don't want to do this anymore. And it's just funny how our mind always goes to that negative rather than looking at the other 19 that I did, which were fabulous. We always focus on that negative. Isn't it funny what we do? But again, it's those things can affect your confidence. But you kind of just have to give yourself a bit of a talking to, and put yourself back on that track. But that's also why it's really important that you don't compare yourself to other mediums, because again, I'm guilty of this. At the very beginning, I was like full on. I was learning what to learn more, because I can also be quite impatient by nature as well. I want things like yesterday. And so I was told by many mediums and psychics to slow down. And I knew that was the case, but because I was so passionate about it and I was developing quite quickly, the more I developed, the more I wanted to know. But I had to try and put the reins on myself a little bit and just slow myself down. But at the same time, I was looking at other mediums, and I think we can all be guilty of doing this, where we look at other mediums who are sat in our development group or circle or whatever, and we feel like they're ahead of us. Even if they've not been in the circle as long as you, it feels like, why are they like 2 steps ahead of me? Why is it that I've been here longer and I haven't developed that much, or haven't been given that opportunity or whatever? And we compare ourselves constantly to other people's journeys. And you have to learn not to do that, because you are on your own path. Because ultimately, you don't know what someone else has done at that point in the development to develop to the point where they are. So everyone's journey really is individual to them. It's a unique journey to them. They're going to have things placed in their path which they're meant to do. I'm going to have things placed in my path which I'm meant to do. I'm not going to have things placed in my path which Spirit don't think are going to benefit me. So everyone's journey is always going to be different. But I can understand, especially at the beginning of development, that other people's journeys can almost in your mind feel like you're being held back because they're doing things that you think that you should be doing. But remember, Spirit know exactly what they're doing with you. They know where you need to go, what you need to do, who you need to see, who you need to be taught by, what topics you need to. So all these things are part of your unique journey. So please don't compare yourself to other people. And the last thing I'll just mention is, please don't allow outside influences, as in people, other mediums or whatever. Plant seeds in your mind, plant those seeds of doubt, because unfortunately there are people out there who will plant certain seeds of doubt. And sometimes it's not purposeful. They just give an opinion and they talk about how long it took them to be a medium or how long it took them to get to platform. And sometimes it is purposeful, because there are some people out there who do have an agenda, unfortunately, and will say things or mention little things to whether to throw you off course or or to hold you back in some kind of way from developing as you are. And I only say that because when I again, at the beginning of my development, I was about 3 years in. I remember I was having a conversation with a group of other mediums. And again, as I mentioned earlier, I'm quite impatient and I like to learn quick. And it's the medium who, she's from the old school. She said to me, well, my dear, it took me 10 years to get to the platform. And now looking back at that, I'm like, well, that's lovely. Good for you, but that's your journey. It's not mine. But at the time, it really made me question myself and think, well, maybe I shouldn't be doing it then. Maybe I'm going too quick. Maybe I shouldn't be going as quick as I can. But it didn't have a positive effect on me mentally. It really made me doubt what I was doing. And it really kind of disheartened me because, I want to get to certain places really quickly, right? Whether it be learning, whatever it might be, whether it be learning a new hobby or skill, I like to get stuff done, right? I'm not a procrastinator generally. I just like to get stuff done. So it really disheartened me that another medium would say that. And I was thinking in my head, okay, I've only been doing this 3 years. Is it now going to take me another 7 before I'm a medium, or, before I take to the platform, right? And that same medium actually said something to me which also affected me. And it was during a Sunday service at the church, and I was in the audience, and she'd come to me, and I can't remember who she brought through from Spirit because it was a long time ago. And by that point, though, I'd done nearly 1,000 mediumship readings, and she came to me and she said, "Well, Spirit is telling me you're not a medium yet." And just those little words, it really deflated me. And it's got nothing to do with ego, because some people might say, "Oh, does she deflate your ego?" I was never egoic. That's not me as a person. I still doubt myself to this day with sometimes when I'm doing a reading. I think, what if I don't get this? What if I don't get that? What if I stand on that platform, nothing comes through? I still doubt myself now, but you deal with it in a different way as you grow and develop. But it really affected me, and even my other half reminds me of that time, because it didn't impress him either, because he saw how those words affected me. And I did take it to heart, because naturally I can be a sensitive person. As a kid, I was a very, very sensitive person, and I did take things to heart, and I allowed it to affect me. And I thought, well, am I not a medium then? If someone else can't see that in me, am I not doing it right? Do I really not have the ability? Because she didn't really know me at all. She didn't know what my development was. But the fact she said that, it really did have that impact. And, but obviously now I look at it different, right? Because I can see that how far I've come in that time. And that's why my other half reminds me of that situation, because he can see that, where I've come and what I'm doing now. And I think sometimes we all need to do that as mediums. We need to reflect. We need to look back at some of those situations that we've had, own them in order to move forward. And I think, if you are an authentic, genuine medium who does this for the good of people, we don't give ourselves a pat on the back, because we continue working and doing the best that we can, that we don't take time to give ourselves any credit at all. A lot of mediums will say, when a client validates what they've said, or they thank them for it, a lot of mediums, and I've done it myself, have said, "Well, don't thank me, thank Spirit." But then, someone also reminded me that, no, give yourself the credit. You're the channel. You're the one that's bringing through the information. Yes, you can't do it without Spirit, but then Spirit also can't do it necessarily without you either. So we do need to give ourselves a pat on the back, and we do need to reflect and look at where we've come from. All those, the tougher times, all those peaks and troughs that we go through. We need to remember that in order for us to move forward. So if you are listening to this and you are on your own mediumship journey, maybe you're still in the early stages of it. Yes, to be honest, you are going to get those moments where you say, "I can't do this anymore," for whatever reason. But you can. It's just finding that joy in the mediumship again. So when you lose that joy, it's knowing that it will come back, but it comes back in whatever way you bring it back. Again, there's no magic pill or formula to say to you, this is how you bring the joy back into your mediumship. It's just a process that you have to go through as you find your way back to it, if you're truly meant to do it. And now, coming to my 7th year, and I only thought about this the other day. I went on holiday in May, and May was the end of my 6th year of development and working as a medium. And I realized that after we came back from holiday, I was then into my 7th year. So it's like my 7-year, I guess, I don't want to say anniversary, but I was going to that 7 years of doing this work, and it almost reset me. I can't really explain it, because it's like previously, when someone has sent me a message asking me to do a church service or a group reading or something, I would sit looking at the message, sweating, thinking, oh, I've been offered this opportunity, but how can I do it? I can't do it. I can't stand up in front of people and give all these messages. And that self-doubt really crept in. But now, even though some of the self-doubt is still there, I'm like, do you know what? I'm doing it. I need to do it. I need to believe in myself. I need to just say, look, Spirit are never going to let me down. They never have let me down. And my mum reminds me of that. She says, look, Spirit have never let you down yet, have they? I'm like, no, they haven't. So it's like, get on with it. Just do it. So now I'm doing something which another medium friend of mine said to me, which was, David, stand in your power. And I say that to you lot as well. Stand in your power. Own your ability. It's not about being egoic or arrogant with it. That's not what I'm saying. But what we're saying is, know what you can do. Know what you're capable of. Stand in your power. And when you really accept those things, no external noise can affect you, because you know that you're the reason why you're doing it. You know you can do it. Out of all the readings you've done, you can see the impact, the positive impact it's had on people. So in order for us not to give up, we need to stand in our power, accept what we can do, and know that we can do it, and we can do it to the best of our ability. So that's what I want to leave you with. All right. Thank you very much for listening to me waffle on for the past half an hour. Look after yourselves, and I'll speak to you all soon. Well, there you have it. That's the end of this episode. I hope you enjoyed what you heard and you found it interesting. There are plenty more episodes to come, so stay tuned, and I'll speak to you all soon.